Welcome to On Fighting in Thailand, the best news and analysis covering the economics and infrastructure of Muay Thai. I'm Matt Lucas, journalist, commentator, and ex-Muay Thai fighter. Make stronger fighters, make stronger people. Today we will be talking to Angela Chang as part of our series on Muay Thai Gram. As always, if you'd like to reach me, you can follow me on Instagram, Matt Lucas Muay Thai, or email me at matt.lucas@gmail.com. I also have my website, www.matt-lucas.com. Thanks to all the people that have supported me so far, sharing the podcast, leaving reviews. If you'd like to leave a review, that would be super helpful. You can do so on the iTunes store. Also want to give my book a plug. I'm Fighting in Thailand, a guide to the sport in the motherland. The clear guide goes over scoring, matchmaking, picking a gym, fight styles, gambling, and more. It also includes a series of interviews with long-term expat fighters, including Michael Savas, Willie Whipple, Lisa Brealey, and Angela Chang, our guest today. The book helps educate and guide careers by saving fighters from costly mistakes. You can pick up your copy off of Amazon. Just type in "On Fighting in Thailand" and it will come up, so it can be shipped directly to you. Thanks as always to my sponsors, Nak Muay Legends, for their continued support of the show. They create some great Muay Thai apparel with portions of the proceeds going back to the legends they celebrate. All the superstars have been paid for their images as well. You can check out their gear at www.nakmuaylegends.com. Use OnFighting to get 15% off your order. Thanks as always to Patrick Rivera for helping me get this show started as well. So a little bit of background on Angela. This is more of an overview of the American fighter. I first met Angela at Sitsong Pinong about 5 years ago. Not too far along into my stay here. I've been out here 5.5 years. She's been out here about 4. So I met her at Sitsong Pinong. Didn't really pay attention because most people come and go. Then I was working on an article on female fighters, and I contacted her. Took some photos of her for the article, and we started to become friends. We've had a bunch of projects that we've worked on together, and it's been great seeing her career evolve. She's really blossoming and pushing herself in terms of her fight career and her other skill sets and talents as well. So I'm very excited to present this interview with Angela Chang. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. How are you doing, Angela?
Thanks for having me again. I'm doing good.
Oh, this is the second time you've been on the podcast, right?
This is for On Fighting in
Yeah,
my second or third time now.
Because you did the one with Trisha last year.
Mm-hmm. And then I think I did another one before that.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
There was one with COVID.
Oh, right. That was a pretty short one.
Yeah.
So this one is obviously about you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how you got started in Muay Thai and, give us the backstory.
So I was always into martial arts as a kid. Not that I practiced or anything, but just because I watched a lot of the old action movies of my dad growing up, like with Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I grew up just really wanting to learn some sort of martial arts, but then I wasn't allowed to because my parents were pretty strict with the gender norms. They said that, oh, girls don't do that stuff. So they put me in piano, but but then when I was studying as a freshman or sophomore, I was working part-time, and there was a gym nearby that had like a Groupon deal going on, so then I started to take classes there. It just so happened it was the instructors there, they were Muay Thai fighters. So what I was learning was Muay Thai and not just like kickboxing or like fitness kickboxing. It was actual Muay Thai. And then a few months training, I was really hooked into it. Just really want to get better. And then from there, I decided, if I want to keep getting better, I should start competing. And then that's when I went over to Seton, which is where the instructors trained out of.
So was it Joel, or who were the first instructors?
It was Rudy Felix and Omar Estevez.
Okay, and then Omar is still with Seton, correct?
Yeah, so they were both still with Seton.
Yeah. So it was a small little gym they were doing like side workout?
It was MMA BJJ gym that had like a kickboxing program, and they just were the instructors there.
And then you had about 4 fights in the States, right?
I had 4 amateur fights over 2.5 years in the States.
Oh, so not that many.
Not that many,
and not that frequently.
Not frequently at all.
Yeah. Why was that? Was it because you were busy in school? Because you studied psychology, correct?
Yeah, so I had my first 2 fights while I was still in school, and then I took about a year off from training, just from some personal issues I was going through, and then I went back to training and back to fighting a year and a half after my second fight. And then that same year I had 2 fights, and at the end of the year I did my first trip to Thailand.
And how many trips to Thailand have you had?
I just had one, and
one very long one?
No, it was just that it was my first trip was 3 weeks, and then I went back to New York, and then 3 weeks after that, that's when I moved out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then after your first trip, or during your first trip, you went to Sitang Pinang. Did you fight during that first 3-week trip?
Yeah, so I was at Sitang Pinang for a total of 3 weeks, and then I was training there for not even, I think, 2 weeks, and then I got set up with a fight, which to me at the time was unheard of, because I was like, what, a 2-week fight camp? That's
pretty good, actually.
I mean, it's pretty good, like, now that I'm thinking about it, but
yeah.
Like, you know, coming from like an amateur Westerner's perspective, you always think that, I need like at least a month to train for a fight, and then you come to Thailand like just training twice a day, and then all of a sudden they're setting you up with fights. And then it's just such a not a big deal to anyone. And then for me, I was just making it such a big deal.
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with perspective and experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And then also sort of understanding levels and all that sort of stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about starting off at Sitan and what training in America was like for you?
So training in America, I trained at Sitan with Aziz. So the main differences training in America versus training in Thailand is that in Thailand you have a lot more trainers at the gym. So every day you get to hit pads because of the amount of trainers that are available. Whereas in America there's maybe only 1 or 2 trainers, so then the students have to hold pads for each other and do drills together and spar together. Like you're not necessarily hitting pads with a trainer every single day. Which isn't necessarily, better or worse. It's just different. I would say intensity-wise, training in America, it's more intense because you're trying to compact all the stuff in training into one session. So I'm talking about the running, the pad work, the sparring, the clinching, all into one session. Whereas in Thailand, it's like you have 2 separate sessions a day to kind of spread those out.
Mm-hmm. And do you think all the pad work is necessary to build a fighter?
I think it is necessary, especially in the beginning, because pad work, it helps you develop your technique, and it helps you develop your range, your timing, your power. So it's really important, especially for beginners, to really test what they currently have in terms of skill.
And then speeding up a little, you came out for 3 weeks. You fell in love with Thailand. Mm-hmm. What was something that you liked a lot about the country?
I really liked the weather. I really liked the food, and I really liked just how kind the locals were. Like, even though I couldn't speak the language at the time, you could tell that they really wanted to help you, even though they weren't sure how to help you, and they didn't know how to speak English. They were just really kind-hearted.
Not like New York.
Yeah, not like New Yorkers who
the
just
Queen's
don't.
attitude.
Who just don't give a crap about anyone.
So you move over here, and you stayed at Sitang Pinang for 4 years.
Correct.
That's a long time, obviously. Can you talk about the different years that you were here? yeah, mainly talk about being at the gym long term, because most foreigners, if they come out, they don't stay at a gym that long. You know, if someone's at a gym for 6 months, that's a long time. I feel like most foreigners tend to bounce around a lot.
Right. So I actually was only originally planned to stay in the country for 6 months and then go back home. But then when the 6 months was coming to an end, I just felt like it wasn't enough time. So I just kept extending my stay because I just felt like there's still so much more to learn. And I just felt like I was still getting better. I was like, oh, this can't be it, because I knew that once I got back home, that progress, I would still progress, but then like the progress wouldn't be at the same rate, because in Thailand, all I'm doing now is training and fighting. I don't have to worry about working a full-time job. I don't really have to worry about anything else. So the fact that I could just concentrate on Muay Thai, my progress since I've gotten here is just, the rate has just been like, tremendous. So I just kept extending my stay because I just really felt like I was progressing really quick. In terms of why I sticked at the gym for so long, it was because of that. Because I just felt like I was really growing as a fighter. I was improving. I saw a lot of improvements in my performance, my power, my skill level. So that's why I stuck with the gym. So because I believe like if it's not broken, you don't need to go looking for another gym for no reason. Yeah,
for sure. What was it like, say, during the first year versus, the second and third year?
So the first year, I definitely think it was the most interesting year, because it was the year of figuring out a lot of stuff. I had to learn the language by myself. I had to learn the area by myself. I met a lot of people from a lot of different countries. I had to get used to the training, the heats, how to eat right, how to take care of myself, how to cut weight in Thailand. And just that first year just had so many good memories, a few bad memories, but just like, it was just really, really memorable. And then compared to the second year was like, that's really when I feel like everything started settling in terms of fighting. Like, okay, now you've been here for a year. All right, now the wheels are turning. Now you can, the momentum is going. So then, like, as long as I kept training and fighting, I just felt like things were moving along more and more smoothly.
And most of your fights or you had a fair amount of fights in Isan and then some in Bangkok as well, correct?
So then, especially my first year and a half, I had a fair amount of fights in Isan, and then, but most of them were in Bangkok.
Mm-hmm. Where in Bangkok, like Asiatique or like
Asiatique, the WPMF shows.
What shows were those?
The WPMF shows were like the Queen's Cup, the King's Cup.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What I feel like not enough foreigners get an experience of fighting in Isan and fighting in the countryside. Can you talk about that and what that's like?
So my first experience fighting in Isan, it was in Chayapum, and the promoter was actually Jongsanan's older sister. So we went over to his hometown in Chayapum. They received us.
Nong Budang, right? Nong Budang.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when we got over to the venue, it was like a temple kind of fair. There was like a bunch of buildings. We got our hands wrapped in a building, and then we went outside. We had to lie down in the dirt. We got Thai oiled in the dirt. There were so many people. It was really loud. So many people in attendance, and when you get in the ring, it's like, it's a combination of the noise from the gamblers, the announcer with the microphone, the Muay Thai music during a round, all the screaming. You're trying to hear your corners, and the ring itself is also like a makeshift ring. Like, it's not even canvas. It's like they put cardboard, some wooden planks, and just threw like carpet on top of all of it. So there was just like pooling of water in random places, and you had to like make sure you didn't like slip and slide everywhere. There were bugs everywhere, but this is just like the real experience of like what real Muay Thai is. You know what I mean? There's just no pomp and circumstance about it. This is just fighting, and this is I guess what they call the grassroots of Muay Thai.
Yeah, it's definitely where a lot of the fighters come from. I always think it's a little dangerous to say like, oh, this is real Muay Thai versus like something else is not real. But definitely a lot of people come through that sort of environment, especially obviously Thai fighters. I remember going out to Nong Bu Dang once, and I went to a festival, and the announcers were like, "Hey, everyone, there's a white person here." I was so embarrassed.
Yeah, I went with...
I was with Johnson on Sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I went with 2 other foreigners, and they treated us like we were celebrities. Like, everyone wanted to take pictures with us, because, I'm Asian, so I guess I was the least, token person. But then, Joel, he's Latino, and then the Australian chick we went with, she was, really tall and white, so then everyone was like, oh, photo.
Where else in Isan have you fought? And Chayapum is quite far from...
Chayapum was far.
It's 6 hours, 7 hours.
Oh, I also... that fight, too, I think we were 5 hours away, and I realized, I forgot my mouthpiece. And then Moment was like, oh, don't worry. When I was little, we didn't have mouthpieces. We just ripped off a piece of our shoe and put it in our mouths and used that as a mouthpiece. And he said it so many times where I thought he was going to be serious about cutting off a piece of his shoe and making me put it in my mouth. And then I begged and begged and begged, and I was like, please, you have to come. You have to bring me to the store and let me buy a mouthpiece. I don't want your shoe in my mouth. That was quite an experience. Other places in Isan that I fought at, I fought in Chayapum 2 times. I fought in Sakyao 1 time, in Manawan's hometown.
Wait, where is Sakyao?
Sakyao is very east.
Almost by Ubon, or?
It's
Ubon,
near the border of Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
I fought in Korat 4 times.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You're driving to all these places, right?
Yeah, Monet drove to all those places.
So 7 hours in the car, basically.
Sometimes 7 hours, 8 hours.
Yeah. To fight, for 1,000 baht. How much were you getting paid?
For the Chayapum fights, we didn't really get that much money, but then we, Monet did his side bets and stuff, so he made some money off of us.
Yeah. So he made money.
Yeah, he made money. I didn't make money, but he made money.
Did he make you guys pay for gas?
He made us give him 500 baht for gas, which I thought was fair.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
It might even cost more than that to go out there in terms of a car, because I know driving from Bangkok to Pattaya costs about 500 baht. But there's also tolls and stuff. I'm not sure there's as many tolls going.
Not as many tolls, but it's definitely a journey.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your fights in Bangkok? Mainly sort of your earlier career.
So I fought in Asia Teak a lot, and I fought at Asia Teak a lot my first 6-7 months here, and then I slowly graduated to the weigh-in shows that are still low level, so Ambassador Hotel, and then there were some shows promoted by the same promoter from Asia Teak, because he also managed a lot of the female fighters that fought out of Kroon Dongburi University. So he always did a lot of all-female fights. So I slowly graduated from those, and then I started fighting on the WPMF shows. And so those fights, they're definitely more organized than the Isan fights. You have to weigh in, and in Thailand there's not really a weight allowance. In America, they give you plus minus a pound. And they don't care if you're under, but they definitely care if you're over. But in Thailand, it's you have to be on the dot. You can't be 100 grams or 200 grams over. You have to be on the dot when it comes to weight. Sometimes with these shows, they want to do press conferences and photos and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I feel it's still not of a big as a deal as they make it out to be in America.
One of the good things about weigh-ins out here is that they generally last an hour. Yeah.
So then a lot of times, even if they want to do a press thing with the weigh-ins, they let the fighters weigh in first, and they record the weights, and then they let the fighters rehydrate. And then if they want to do some live stream or televised thing, it would be after the fighters have already eaten and rehydrated.
which is obviously a much better setup than a lot of times in America.
Correct.
So, who were some of the notable people that you fought in your early career? Did you keep a list? You didn't keep a list, did you?
I kept a list of my wins and my losses, and I took photos of the fight posters, so I have their names saved somewhere. But most of the people that I fought early on, they weren't notable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were like high school students or university students that studied and trained part-times. I trained full-time, so usually I was in better shape than they were, even if they were more experienced. But I would say my second year, that's when I started fighting people who were more notable. So the first person I fought that had a bit of a name, her name was Nong Song. And I fought her on TV. She was the first southpaw that I fought, and we fought to a draw on TV. And then later that year, I fought Wonder Girl, and then I won. I won that fight, and that was at the King's Cup. And then at the end of that same year, I fought Pempenja, who was one of the top fighters at 52 kilos. She doesn't fight anymore, but at that time she was one of the top fighters, and then I won against her. And this was a fight in Korat. It was a televised fight for Ladies Fight Thailand. So my second year here, that's when I started fighting the higher level people.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that you were able to win because of your conditioning? Because you mentioned that, you trained twice a day, so you were generally in better shape, or was there a variety of factors that helped you out?
I think it was a variety of factors, but my conditioning definitely played a huge role in it. Not to take anything away from them, they were really experienced and really technical, but of course if you want to go technique with someone who has like 2 to 3 to 5 times the amount of experience that you do, you're not going to win. So sometimes you just have to win with brute force, or just like smother them with whatever it is, with clinching, or just like a barrage of combinations, or just come forward and make them get tired.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like why are they weren't as conditioned as you?
I trained really hard at Sitsong Pinong. I mean, I still train really hard now, but I just remember like getting killed on the pads, and then going to the fight and just knowing like, whatever happens here, I know I'm not going to get tired because of the way I trained. So so my conditioning and my training and all the running that I put in, it definitely had a lot to do with it.
And then, so after your 4 years at Sitsong Pinong were up, you recently moved over to PK Sanchai earlier this year.
Correct.
Why did you make that move, and what is being at PK like?
I made the move because I didn't have a lot of training partners left at Sitsong Pinong, which was really important to me. So then I made the move to PK Sanchai after my friend invited me to go over there. I found there to be a lot more people for me to train with. And I started training full time again after lockdown ended in July. So I started training full time at PK starting in July.
And you've had 3 fights out of there?
Yes.
So what is it like? How is the training different? Can you just talk a little bit more about your experience with PK?
So the training is different compared to Sitsong Pinong in that in the mornings we don't hit pads. It's at Sitsong Pinong we hit pads or spar in the morning, and at PK it's running and then you lift weights. So it's not like Muay Thai training in the mornings. It's more conditioning at PK. Whereas at Sitsong Pinong it was running and then you have to train Muay Thai of some sort. So I feel like training at Sitsong Pinong, the morning session was definitely felt more exhausting because after a run you had to hit pads. It was just like it takes a lot of you out of your body. And then at PK there's more flexibility in terms of what time you show up to the afternoon session. Like you can show up anytime from 2 o'clock to 5:30. Like you can drop in literally any time from that time frame. So you can take more rest if you need to, or if you want to come in earlier that day and just get your pad work done, you could do that as well. At Sichuan Pinot, they had a very strict timetable of a schedule, so we start training exactly at 2 p.m. and we knew around the estimated time when training was going to end.
Why are the different gyms structured that way, do you think?
I think mostly because PK is such a big gym. Like, there are 40 Thai fighters, around 40 Thai fighters at that gym. Whereas Sichuan Pinong, I think when they had the most amount of Thai fighters, it wasn't more than 10 or 12. So when you have like 40 fighters, there's no way that you can have all of them come in at the same time to hit pads. That would be chaotic. So it just would make sense for them to come in waves or have them come in at different times. So having that flexibility is really important for a bigger gym.
And with that sort of larger, looser structure, is there things that sort of fall through the crack, or is it pretty good the way they take care of everything? You know, I feel like if it's a looser structure, the onus might need to be on the fighters to make sure that they're doing the other things as well.
So then, speaking from my own experience, there are definitely some pros and cons about it. A pro that I found is that I feel a lot less pressure to stick to a certain type of training regimen, because I'm someone who can self-regulate and I have self-discipline to do everything that I need to do. So I know that I don't need someone to like watch over me like a hawk, because that's a lot of pressure, even if I know that, oh, I'm gonna get it done. But a con to having like a looser kind of regimen is that, you know, if you're not one of the roster fighters, then there's no one to keep you accountable if you don't clinch, if you don't spar, if you don't do your sit-ups, if you don't do your conditioning. You know, you could just, if you call yourself a fighter, you can technically just go in and hit pads and then don't do your sit-ups, don't spar, don't clinch, and leave, and maybe none of the trainers will say something about it. So
like me. I mean, I do think that, you know, it's good, especially for foreigners, to have that structure in the beginning. And then later, I think, you know, a lot of people, if they've made it through like a year or two of being out here, they can self-regulate. But a lot of times, earlier fighters and some personalities as well, they just need that structure a bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think having like a really strict, really old school way of training, it's really beneficial to people in the beginning, just to teach them what discipline, hard work, and and just so they know what they're made out of, and they know that they can stick to those kind of things.
And so obviously you switched, you've basically had 3 trainers in your career. Aziz early on at Sitan, then Moonlit for 4 years, and now Pachai. What is working with the different guys like?
So Aziz is someone who takes whatever you've got and he works with you. He doesn't try to put you in any kind of category or try to mold you in any way. He takes your strengths and your weaknesses and he works with what you've got. Mullen is someone who, like, he wants you to be a certain way. He wants you to be a certain style. So he breaks you down. He breaks everyone down the same way, teaches everyone the same way, wants everyone to have, you know, the perfect technique. He's a perfectionist, and he does everything like power, technique, power, technique, power, technique. When it comes to training with Bachai, he does a lot more combinations. His power work is a lot more fast paced. With him, I definitely feel like I'm a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you've had the 3 fights with him, the 2 matches with Nong Hong, and then the fight the last night with Dang Kong Fa. So what sort of improvements or changes have you seen besides being faster?
I definitely feel more comfortable in the ring. I feel like I'm a lot more confident. Some of that has to do with my increased speed now, because before, a lot of the complaints that I got from Moment was that oh, you're too slow, oh, you think too much before you do stuff. But now that I'm not or there's not as much of a delay between thinking and doing. And the fact that I'm just doing things and I'm reacting a lot faster, I feel like it's making me a lot more confident. And I also feel a lot stronger. And on top of all of it, I'm also walking a little bit lighter, so I'm not cutting as much weight. And I feel like that's less stress on me as well.
Before, how much weight were you cutting?
Anywhere from 3 to 5 kilos.
Oh, 5 kilos is a lot.
Yeah.
Especially for someone your size. You walk around at 54 kilos right now. About before, were you walking heavier or?
I was walking anywhere from 56 to 58.
Yeah, 58 is pretty big. And then cutting 5 kilos is a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like most women just cut like 2 to 3 kilos at most, right?
Yeah.
I feel like men will cut a little more, but it doesn't really go that much higher. I don't know. I think, if you cut more than 2 to 3 kilos, it can impact your performance. So you've switched from sort of fighting in the countryside and the smaller shows to doing more entertainment shows like Muay Hardcore and Super Champ. Can you talk about what that experience is like?
So at the moment, for a couple of reasons, these are the best options being a female fighter in Thailand now. Before Super Champ, they didn't put women on their shows at all, or maybe just once in a blue moon. But now they're regularly putting women on every single week, and recently they started putting 2 women on it, 2 female bouts on every single show. And now it's not just Super Champ, but there's the Muay Hardcore show that's every Saturday as well. So the Channel 8 shows right now, if you're a female fighter in Thailand, they're the best option that we have in terms of getting exposure and getting experience, because all the other avenues for female fighters, they're not really open at the moment. Fighting for these promotions, they run pretty smoothly. They tell you what to do. They tell you, what time to be at a certain place, and everything goes according to plan. There's a rehearsal for when you go to the ring, what you're supposed to do, where to stand in front of the camera, what to do in front of the camera, what to do after you get in the ring, how to exit the ring. So it's a very organized affair because it's on TV.
And how have the matchups been? How many fights have you had on the televised shows now? Like 6, 7?
I think I've had a total of 5 now.
5. How are the matchups not only for you, but would you say in general for the women?
I think the matchups for the women, they have all been pretty fair. Yeah, for most of them, they've been pretty fair. And I feel like a lot of the women fights are really, really exciting as well. They really give it their all.
Yeah, I do think that the female fights are pretty well matched up for the most part. The male fights can be a bit
they can be a hit or miss.
Sometimes they're good fights, sometimes they're a bit of mismatches. So what are some of your goals in being out here? I know you plan to stay out here for some time still.
So I would love to win a few belts before I decide to hang up my gloves. I have my eyes on the WBC title, either national or world. I would love to fight in one championship. I feel like that's just right around the corner for me. I would love to win some titles like WMC, WPMF. I actually fought for a WPMF title a couple years ago, but I lost via decision. So
who did you fight?
I fought Nam Wan. No. Her name's not Nam Wan.
You can't remember.
It's actually Tanun Chai's sister.
Oh.
Luke Nam.
Oh,
Luke
okay.
Nam, yeah. But that fight was at like 54 kilos. It was too heavy for me.
Oh, yeah, that's quite big.
Yeah.
I mean, you should fight at like 52 or so.
Or lower, yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess changing directions a little bit and talking a little bit more about your career and, staying out here long term isn't easy, but you've managed it. I think some of the ways you've managed it is through work stuff. So you spent a year and a half working for Muay Thai Pros, which was a gear company that was quite active. Stephen Kong founded it. Can you talk about what you did with them and what you sort of learned with that experience?
So I started off working for Muay Thai Pros by just doing some photography work for them, but then Steven offered me a social media marketing job. So what I did was I ran the social media page, the Instagram page for MTP Fight Gear, and I was also in charge of taking care of the athletes that were sponsored by the brand. It was definitely a big learning experience. I had social media experience already from doing social media for Sejong Kinong. But doing social media for a brand and trying to hustle gear was it was different. It was a different it's the same crowd as the camp crowd, but you have to do things differently because everyone's trying to sell something, but not everyone's trying to buy something. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what you should be doing on social media. I learned a lot about the amount of time you should be putting into things, or what you should do, what you shouldn't do. I also learned a lot about what it takes to build relationships with certain athletes and what's worth keeping in those relationships and what's not.
Mm-hmm. So I guess touching on one of your points, I definitely want to touch on a couple of them, the athletes, and then also what were some of the specific things you learned about how to act on social media?
So when you are doing social media for a business, first you have to be very professional. You can't forget that whatever opinions that you may have about a certain person or certain idea, you have to make sure that whatever you express on behalf of the brand or the company, it has to also reflect what they think as well. You can't take your personal aggressions out on a fighter that you don't like. And just like...
Did you ever do that?
No, I never did it. But, this is not something that I learned because I messed up, but this is just something to be very, very aware of, because when you have that power in your hands, sometimes I've seen things just go wrong, but then...
do you have an example of when something went wrong?
I just see some like media, like Muay Thai media, or some athletes just talk shit about other people, and I just feel like sometimes it's very unprofessional and very unnecessary.
That sort of reminds me, one time I posted about Eddie Abasolo. This was quite some time ago. Mm-hmm. And, a pretty normal profile, and someone said something on the post that was like, oh, he's not that good. Mm-hmm. And, in general, I would say Eddie Abasolo is not that good, because there's like a ton of fighters, but the way I phrased it made it sound more negative. And then a bunch of people got on the thread, and it was like a really old photo of him too. Mm-hmm. But it started like popping up. Right. And it sort of taught me a valuable lesson about how like I talk about people and how I frame things, and then also like the things you say have a lot of impact.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially when you do social media a lot, or you're a presence. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely understand where you're coming from on that. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship with the athletes that you had to build?
So then I had to find some athletes that were interested in working with MTV.
Oh, I'm sorry, one sec. I'm not saying Eddie is bad either, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But, there's a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
And the chance that any one individual is going to be amazing is very, very low.
Yeah.
So
it's nothing personal to Eddie.
Yeah. It's not like saying someone is not good or is not like amazing is not an insult. Mm-hmm. It's probably the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to, clarify it
Yeah.
and not make the same mistake twice. So can you talk about the athletes again?
Yeah, so then it was my job to reach out to certain athletes to see if they wanted to work with MTV Fight Gear. So then one of the athletes that I actually saw some promise in was Smilla. So then Smilla was one of the first athletes that I reached out to. I saw that she worked really hard when she was training in Koh Samui. And she worked really hard. She was young. She showed a lot of promise. So I was working with Smilla for a little bit. I sent her some stuff, and she was making a lot of posts for us. So then this is a relationship. The brand helps the athlete, and the athlete helps the brand. It's a relationship, and it should go both ways. And and as with all relationships, both people should benefit from it. So then I managed a team of athletes, and I made sure that they all got what they needed in terms of gear, and that they were happy with the way that they were being taken care of and stuff. And if they had any issues, they would just tell me, and then I'll try to resolve them.
I think one of the things that people misunderstand about sponsorship is that it's a business relationship.
Correct.
And I think some of it has to do with the way it's talked about. Like sponsorship is like, oh, you have a patron who just gives you stuff.
Right.
But that is not true. And that is not what actually happens. And that is not what especially a gear company is going to expect. It's a business relationship.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. What are some of the other things you've learned from Muay Thai pros, and how has it influenced some of your other projects like Muay Ying?
I've learned quite a lot from working with MTP Fight Gear. I can't really put my finger on anything specific right now, but a lot of what I learned from it in terms of running the social media, it definitely carried over with how I ran the social media for my own athlete page, and for how I ran the page for Muay Ying. So one would be making my presence more known on the platforms. So not just posting, but also interacting and trying to make my posts engaging and connecting with people in the community. Because anyone could just put up a photo or video and just put a bunch of hashtags and just leave it at that. But then you have to think about who are you trying to reach with this? Who do you really want to speak to with this post? So those are things that are really important.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's a lot of community building.
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit about Muay Ying and what you're trying to do with it?
So I started Muay Ying over 4 years ago. Aziz actually gave me the idea about it because most Muay Thai news media outlets, they don't really cover anything when it comes to female fighters. They just cover the men or the stadium fighters. Even the news here in Thailand, there's so many good female fighters, especially after I came out here and then I realized just how many good Thai female fighters there were here that I've never heard of ever. I was just blown away. I was like, wait, she's a world champion. She fights all the time, but all I hear about are all these guys. Like her name needs to be known. So then, a lot of it also had to do with like what I believe in terms of like equality and what people that people deserve to be known if they work hard. And I feel like a lot of the female fighters that I've seen fight here and that I've heard of fight here, especially the first year I got here, they definitely deserved news to be reported on them that wasn't being reported on. So that's why I started Muay Ying. So I started Muay Ying just giving out those, just reporting news on them, just saying, oh, so-and-so fought so-and-so and this person won, and I put up a picture. And then from there I started writing articles, sometimes videos. I took a little break from it because it was getting discouraging, just to do everything myself and also not getting any money from it. But then recently I got like a newfound motivation to do it again, and I put up a Patreon for it, which I have quite a lot of supporters in. And I started writing regularly again, especially during lockdown, and I'm posting news regularly on the female fighters.
So can you talk a little bit about doing some of your writing stuff and what experience you have?
Okay, so I do a lot of freelance writing. I would say that I started off my freelance writing with MuayThaiGuy.com. I did a lot of writing for Sean, and that's really where I started building up my writing resume. And then from there, I started doing other types of writing work for Muay Ying and Infight Style. And I also do some copywriting work for like different subjects. Like I did some copywriting work for my friend who wanted to do some SEO stuff on vacuum cleaners, and I'm currently writing for a company called Oak Theory, and they do a lot of branding work and social media work and website design, and I've been writing weekly articles for them. So yeah,
it's good. So switching gears a little bit, you're sponsored by a couple people. Can you talk about the sponsorships or the business relationships? Maybe it might be a better term for you.
Okay, so as an athlete, the only sponsorship I have as an athlete would be with Muay Thai Gram. So Muay Thai Gram, they help me get other sponsorships, and also you help to help manage certain things for me. Like you have my fighter profile, which you help me create, on top of some other things. And for my blog Muaying, one of my major sponsors is Golden Era Muay Thai Apparel, and that helps me a lot with just being able to really follow the female Muay Thai scene and being able to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I do think that, especially companies like Golden Era, Muay Thai Apparel are doing a good thing when they're, giving money back into the sport. Mm-hmm. A lot of money in the West, it doesn't take that much money from the West to bring a lot of life into fights and the scene out here in Thailand. Like $100, $200 a month can go quite far out here and really build a project. So I think that's a good thing. So I guess wrapping things up, is there stuff that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again, Angela. Maybe you will be on it again in the future.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I probably will.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
So that concludes the interview with Angela. I think she's a really interesting person. Coming out here and staying long term is not easy. Angela did it the right and hard way. Had a lot of fights out in Isan, which is not easy. Just the long drives, the conditions are not good. Then also the pay is not good. Of course, as always, the pay for female fighters is lower, so it makes it a lot more difficult economically and materially for female fighters to continue to fight. That said, they do have some advantages, especially with social media. It's a bit easier for women to market themselves, but it does come with a little bit of a price or a little bit of some barriers as well. More people tend to try and shoot them down, and more people sort of have problems with their credibility, which is really unfortunate. I think needs to change. That said, it is still a very, very good time to be a female fighter, both in America and out here in Thailand. There's a lot of entertainment shows that are happening, and the power of the internet cannot be denied. There's a lot of opportunities opening up for female fighters. So I'm very excited for Angela and her career, see where she goes with Muay Ying, her career, and also her sponsorship with Muay Thai Gram. So, as always, this has been On Fighting in Thailand, the best news and analysis covering the economics and infrastructure of Muay Thai. I'm Matt Lucas, journalist, commentator, and ex-Muay Thai fighter. Make stronger fighters, make stronger people.